Welcome to episode 12. And we're looking at this. I have general. This is the A block. So general random shit's gonna come out of my fucking mouth. You get it? This is how it's gonna be. So I just took in a bunch of random fucking shit because life has been weird. So The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, season 1. Gave it 8.5 out of 10. Really had a hard time continuing watching the show because there's so much television fat on this goddamn show. Right? Just to put it into perspective, Rachel Brosnahan and Alex Borstein should be the fucking drive to this show. And you're like, well, they are. No. I have to learn about the fucking how many times they piss, shit, other random fucking characters that I don't give two shits about. Now, granted, the parents are important. The family's important. The culture is important. Don't get me wrong with that. But you get that through the eyes of her. Right? Mrs. Maisel. Actually, Miss Maisel. Probably be a lot fucking easier. The husband really is kind of just a fucking tool. Like, I feel bad for the actor because this dude gets like the shittiest, weirdest roles. Didn't he die in The Walking Dead? It's just strange things. Every time I see him in a role, I always feel kind of like you're going to end up having a really shitty existence in this world they just built for you. The kids really don't matter. They don't matter. They don't matter. They don't fucking matter. They're just like no different from like a poster on a wall, like, and maybe a random comic relief or a side thing. It's a waste of fucking time, realistically. Now, granted, the actors they chose are good actors. All of them are great performers, and it's not written badly. It's just there's a lot of fat. Problem with television is the goal is to lure you into watching more television like dope. Right? It's not like film. Film is a piece of art that burns into your brain that you reference occasionally and you will go back to revisit. Right? And appreciate it or find different angles. Television is it's rare if you watch television a few more times. Unless it's in syndicated and you're really bored or it's genuinely funny, not even all the time. Like there's television shows, maybe Deadwood, I've revisited a couple times. I had to rewatch Game of Thrones season 1 because of the books. The books are 1,000 times better. Invest in the Audible versions of these books because they've got 1,000 pages. Unless you're into the reading, you have a lot of downtime. I will just tell you, Audible, especially if you're working and you're doing stuff and you have a headset on and it's on low enough to hear what's going on in the environment and the Audible's there and you're listening to it. Audiobook, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I know Audible's like that's a you're plugging something right there. Yeah, I am, but hey, it's a good source. So, Game of Thrones I probably revisited once because I realized the Men Without Banners was in the first season, and they keep going. And in the book, they elaborate on them a lot more. So it's more of a revision to understand the book better, or to see if it was actually in the book, or in the show, I should say. Westworld, I've gone back again, because the first season is really, really strong. I think I gave it a 10. It just operates like a really long, engaging movie. And it was set so high, the bar was set so high that you knew season 2 was not going to be as good, but the drop-off is so fucking hard with Westworld. It is. So anyway, The Marvelous Miss Maisel has an 8.5. I like the fact that she takes the energy she has and translates it to the stage. Right? Okay, so she drops her top at the end of her set, or during a set. Cops come in. And they do peruse the area. They check things out. and their goal is to do this dirty shit. Like, we must keep the public in line. Now, mind you, there's probably people getting held up and beaten in the alley, but, any which way. What they needed to show was a sequence of them walking and her noticing. Yeah, that's weird, right? That's peculiar. Something to that effect, to set a precedence. But they just show it right up, like as soon as she does it, like, bloop, we're there. We just teleported in. No, it's not how it happens. Even with Lenny Bruce's performances, they're usually there. They're just waiting for him to say something. The use of Lenny Bruce in this show is kind of crazy. Like, first of all, Mrs. Maisel is a composite character, probably pulled from somebody's personal history and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. And I understand, I went into this cold. I just watched the 7th episode of Kill Tony on Netflix. And I was like, this is cool. This is a more intricate way to really get into the nuts and bolts of comedians or non-comedians trying to be comedians, so on and so forth. And so I actually watched older episodes on YouTube. And I'm like, I like the way this is managed. This is a good idea, right? The one on Netflix is Joe Rogan. It is what it is, right? He's not my taste. It's not interesting enough. If I've ever watched anything of his, it's usually because the guest was more interesting. Clearly, obviously, that's what keeps his stuff going. But for the most part, I'm just not as interested. I'm more interested in just different comedians, like Iliza Shlesinger and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't belong. That's not what I'm saying. All of them, there's different audiences. You have a barrage of different audiences. They pull from what they pull from. But he's on the show, so I went back to the Dom Herrera episode. I think it was I'm going to be wrong, like 400, somewhere in the 400s. So I like the way that it was set up. And I happened to say, let me go into Mrs. Maisel, and see what's going on here. Everybody keeps telling me about it. And I watch it, I'm just going, okay, this is interesting. That was cool. That doesn't make any sense. And all of a sudden I'm like, why are we spending so much fucking time with these characters? I don't give a fuck about these people. Get through a season, good. Now, granted, they hired good actors. Tony Shalhoub, Kevin Pollak, they hired good actors. Marion Hinkle is great from Foundational for Mom. There's a lot going on there. That's interesting. And you can get that through snapshots. Actually, what would be interesting is if the character herself ended up in awkward situations deconstructing them, which would perpetuate the series or stand-up. All her shtick and everything she's doing, that would actually make more sense to keep that drive going. This is literally a 3-season show, aggressively 3-season show, that they just added a lot of shit onto. I get into season 2, and I think that's where the Catskills happens. And I'm like, the fuck is this? Like, really? We're going to just literally do this whole, let's switch up the whole, not interested at all. At all. Don't give a fuck. And that's where the problem is. And maybe it's just, I'm not the demographic. Because understand, television really, oh my God, they're like vibrating on their fucking chairs with tons of gallons of fucking car lubricant just to get the right audience so they can get paid dirt. We need to sell more ads, boys. We need to sell more, because most of it's boys, even the girls are boys, right? That's the situation there. And I see this and I like, this is good. And you have a lot of things popping. The Gaslight is dope looking. Like that, you did a really good retro structure. Even if you use sound stages, it doesn't fucking matter. You did a good job. The world's developed really well. So to watch the fat weigh it down is just absolutely fucking crazy. And it's really television dope. It's the narrative they use constantly for televisions. Television series, it's like a more amped up version of terrible soap operas. Just the way it is. If you weren't sure of like where the dope is, that's what it is. Soap operas perfected that shit. Now we're looking at, Daredevil season 4. Born Again Season 1. Pick a fucking lane, right? I know they're like, well, we're trying to reinvent the character for the MCU because we're going to act like Netflix, and back and forth. And the thing you have, the caveat. So this gets, in my book, like an 8, 8.5, 8.5, 8, something like that. Like a weak 8.5. And the reason why, and the thing you have to take into consideration, is this show had to be patchworked back together. So they shot it, to my understanding, and then they had to rework the material in order to place it correctly, in order to match to the other show. This first 3 seasons of the Netflix show, now granted, they did a lot of things that were fucked up. And the actor, I'll give you the names, Eldon Henson and Charlie Cox. I know season 1, it's been a bit. There is like around episode 10, they have them interacting with each other. And this is one of those things I think they should have spent a lot of time fucking with this idea and going back and forth. Like, it would have been perfect to have just a hint of what Affleck and Jon Favreau were trying to do in the movie in this, right? And it's there, right? But it seems kind of forced. But also in that series, there was 13 episodes. And honestly, they only needed to be 10. So sometimes the show got weighed down because they didn't seem to understand the idea of how comics work. They usually present storylines in long threads. So you have like A, B, C, D, G, as long as you want to go down the alphabet, story threads. And as far as your planning, you lay this foundation accordingly, right? And usually you have a baseline beginning that sometimes you can design in such a way while writing or even laying out comics or like artwork. Any narrative, really. And I do believe like if you're an artist, you have a narrative, regardless of whatever your chosen medium is, right? So you start off and they didn't lay for a long term or to segue another piece into another piece, right? So in a lot of the Netflix shows, it seems to be we're trying to run a long story on a thin premise. Daredevil has a lot to pull from. And I told you a few episodes back that Volume 2 is just strong as fuck. So when you read it, there's just nothing. You just bam, bam, like the fucking stories just segue into each other, keep going, keep punching in the face, and ends. And then Mark Waid takes it over, and he makes Daredevil smile. The fuck is going on with you, sir? I know. That's a thing. Mark Waid can write really well. I just didn't like it. It was like, for me, it was like, death. So, Daredevil, the new series, has to be put together in proper place. So the thing, maybe it's a strongly 8.5 that I think of. So they did the work. They put the work in. They hired the worst fucking actor to play Muse ever. Like, I wanted something a lot more interesting. And I got, I don't know, the first person they fucking tested, I don't know where they got this dude from. Now, granted, the scene was already fucking strange. And honestly, it needed a lot of beat work in the scene in order to keep it going. Beat, nailing it out, going, bup, 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 bup. This piece goes over here, this piece goes over there, and it works really well. Because now I'm putting together as a structured sound piece. So rhythm and movement of the scene works. To the point where you have Daredevil showing up through the window. You're like, the fuck? What is going on here, sir? Right? It was weird. The whole sequence was weird, and the actor did not help it. There is, now I'm going to go to a little sidebar. Captain America 4 came out. And if you haven't seen it, fuck you. Not my problem. There is a sequence that should be in that fucking movie. Right? There should have been a sequence in a large hall filled with military soldiers where the Falcon and Captain America, without minimal armor, start hearing Mr. Blue play, the song that triggers people. And they should have prior knowledge of what this song does. But the soldiers as a collective in the room don't. The tension in that sequence, if that was in the fucking movie, would have made that movie better. It's a good movie. It's another patchwork movie. Because obviously they're cost correcting right now. Obviously Loki was the first one, it was the better one. But they're cost correcting right now because of the fucking travesty. The business hand just went into the... They fucking destroyed everything in the fucking path. So you have 4, 5, and 6 that are just jacked up. So now the course corrections happen. So now we're cut and pasting this shit back together. Well, you should have had a lot of writers. But you know what? They don't want to pay people. They don't want to have people show up. I told you, they're starving of fucking money right now. It's speculated. I'm telling you, it's on my fucking graph. Their math since 2015 does not make any fucking sense. You want good product, you want good movies, you want an audience. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you looking to people like me to say, hey, check this movie out? What the hell movie is this? Now I have to redirect you to the source to watch the fucking trailer. Because attention spans. Right? So anyway, it's patchwork together. It exists. All Daredevil material is based on strong runs. They're not giving you the clunky shit. Right? The problem with this season is they needed more action. So if you're going to run the Wilson Fisk story of him becoming mayor and taking over the city, right? That's what happened. And, I'm sorry. I hadn't watched it. I don't give a fuck, dude. That's your responsibility, not mine. So, ladies and gentlemen, go watch this shit. And if you're one of those people that, well, you just told me the ending, you ruined everything. No, I didn't. The journey, most of the work done is a journey to get there. There are movies you can tell me the endings of, right? All you did was save me the first go-around. And even then, I don't think you did. Right? If the work is constructed well, that all you count on is a surprise ending to salvage the rest of the movie, then you have a shitty movie. Right? Like Seven existed for many, many years, since the 90s, right? The detective, the hardball detective by Brad Pitt's girlfriend's head is in a box at the end of the movie. Guess what? John Doe wins. Essentially. Right? With that said, the movie, you need to go through it. It is really good. The setup is amazing. And if you're crying over fucking Seven, then you've been a vault? You've been part of a cult for the last 30-something years? Well, almost 30 years now. Over 25, right? It's not my responsibility to do your work for you. Right? If people are telling you and word of mouth getting around and say, watch something, check something out, check the source first of all. If it's Aunt Mildred, you probably don't want to watch it. It's probably close to the Days of Our Lives from back in the day. And John in that fucking show, Jesus Christ. That dude did everything. Right? He was an exorcist. He was a fucking soldier of fortune. That's the dude you kill first in that show. If you want to go take over the rest of the cast in the fictitious little world, you need to take out John. Right? Because that dude is a chameleon and a borderline alien. He'll adapt to fucking anything. That's how that works. So take him out, the rest of the cast will fall in line. So anyway, Daredevil does this stuff, they put the composite work together, and they're running that story. But what they needed to do is maybe 2-episode arcs, 3-episode arcs of a story, a crime, or a piece of a larger puzzle. Put together, assembled relatively well. You have enough time. You can literally spend an hour and change doing this. Per episode, making it intriguing as fuck. And it's all could be done on the studio lot. Because it's indoor stuff, investigating. That's part of what Daredevil does. Right? Now granted, there's a lot of shit they did in the show which is really good. It was an improvement. Right? That opening fight was suspect, but it was good. It makes sense, kind of loosely, and it pays off in the end. So they did a good job with that. So maybe it's 8.5. Maybe it can stand on its legs because taking consideration it was assembly piece. So the work was already done. It went back to it, retooled it, refixed it. So the next 9 episodes, which originally should be 18 episodes altogether, to run the whole Born Again storyline, should not suffer from this. So the expectations should be higher. And seeing Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio and John Bernthal, Deborah Ann Wolf, the whole cast coming back together allows for the material to work and goes back to the better sauce, which is the first 3 seasons. Now, granted, the first 3 seasons they kind of fucked up a little. Like, the Elektra saga didn't happen exactly the way it was supposed to happen. But you got everything, right? And that's what mattered. That's why that show, out of all the shows, actually Luke Cage kind of docked himself relatively well. Jessica Jones has a brilliant opening season. So that's stuff you have to check out. Next item. Bob Dylan's The Times They Are Changing, the LP from 64. I think it's the 3rd LP. Yeah, been listening to that a lot. Interesting song for social constructionism of race. Only a pawn in their game. Now, I've attempted to actually get this played on the radio. Like, not me playing it. I played it. But getting commercial stations to play this. Because there's no swear words in this song. But this song speaks truth to exactly the construct of race. Brilliant song. Probably easily my top 5. With God on His Side and Boots of Spanish Leather. Actually, the whole album is strong as fuck. Obviously, it's fucking Bob Dylan, right? So, I would tell you if you've heard The Times They Are Changing so many fucking times you want to puke, because, they use it for a lot of shit, you should maybe substitute with Flogging Molly's cover. Or skip the track, go to the next track. Sometimes they do that. They'll take a track and lightning rod that fucking shit ad nauseum. If you haven't heard it for a while and never heard it yourself, then listen to the whole album. It's a great song. Actually, Times They Are Changing is a song that is typically in anthologies. They do talk about it. Dylan was like the poet laureate back in the day. Like, he was just first 10 albums are strong as fuck and still keeps going till today. All the material's still really decent today. Not as strong, like those first 10 though. Jesus. Like, literally was a conduit. Interesting movie to watch. One of my favorite movies from last year. Complete Unknown. And that came out, James Mangold came out, I think, in December. I think it's on Disney Plus now, but buy a copy. Fucking, again, tangibles versus intangibles. Next item. Absolute Batman number 7. If you don't know, let me briefly explain. Absolute Universe began at the beginning of this year. Actually, late 2024. There is a special called All In. I want to say it's still on the second print. You still get copies of it. Even if you don't want to pay for one, borrow one, check places out. Pretty sure you can get it really cheap online when it's really digital. It's a story that explains why this is all going on. It's like Ultimate Universe, the new Ultimate Universe in Marvel. You really don't understand what's going on. You just know there's shit. Something's intervened. If you first start reading Spider-Man, you know something's happened. You don't know on which scale. And I think it was the release structure was Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, and I want to say Ultimate X-Men. That was the role. And each world has its own thing, but it goes back to a larger story. This does the same thing, except there was an event, which I didn't read the event, and some comic book people listening to this going, why didn't you read it? Because honestly, time. Sometimes I just don't have as much funding, don't have the time to sit down and bang all this stuff out. Like, there's comic books I'm reading, I will tell you them every so often. They're really strong. Storm. Read Storm. Everything's Krakoa. Storm's a strong ass book. Really interesting shit going on in that book. The Absolute Universe is interesting, but it's based on the premise of what happened. I don't want to give too much of it away. You know, it's like, well, you just gave everything. You're right, but yeah, it's a large story. So telling you the beginning and the ramifications of it, well, read the book. It's a flip book, so each cover you read it from, the Absolute Universe or the DC, standard DC Universe, the story ends up at the same point in the center, which is kind of cool. So in which way? Batman was the first title to come out, so it's hit 7. Wonder Woman, I think, just hit 7 this past week. There is 6 titles so far tied to this. There's Batman, they did the Trinity, so Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, and then Flash, which is Wally West, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. Or Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, something like that. Green Lantern I haven't read yet. And the reason why is because there's a title called Green Lantern Dark, which is really, really good. And I tried reading Green Lantern Corps, the new one. It's like, this is awful. This is terrible. This is everything I don't like about the fucking book. Melted pot and rushed through somebody's asshole. That's my opinion of it. And DC's like, why'd you just do that to us? I'm like, hey, motherfucker, I'm the one purchasing it. I felt like I was done wrong. So now you're going to hear a retort. Because I've read some of your Green Lantern books, specifically Green Lantern Corps, which I always think they work better as a core, right? And the books worked. This is the first time I've gone, what the fuck is this garbage? So I'm hesitant in that aspect. I haven't read Martian Manhunter either. So Wally West, Flash, I think I've read maybe, I'm not sure if I've read the whole issue. I have to actually go back to reread it. I may have just flipped through it. Any which way. So this is a whole different world. Issue 7 of Batman introduces the Mr. Freeze of this universe. And holy fuck. Creepy as fuck. Not the same Freeze you think it is. And yeah. Even if you just don't, if you want to skirt a few months, issue, I think 1 through 6 is going to come out, and trade paperback of 1 through 6. Will probably be Party Animals, which is Cyanus. Even if you want to skip that and jump on 7, do so. Right? It's not a bad pickup. So far, the title is really strong. Wonder Woman is really good too. So Superman, I like. And I really want the momentum to pick up a little, but they did a lot of foundation showing how he's different and where his situation came from. So his story is probably the most retooled. Wonder Woman is they put her into hell, essentially Hades. So they kind of changed that enough. Batman, they just made him working class, which is interesting. So I advise you to check that out. And the last thing, Rick and Store was on April 12th, and I think that was a big deal. And there was a lot of crazy shit. And the only reason why I'm going to mention it is a couple things. Some of the albums that were bought on that day posted at some point at eBay and other places as double the prices they actually paid for the album. And I know people that were enthusiastic. Their nipples were exploding with delight. They're like, "This is great! This is I will tell you, just because the motherfucker's selling it for double the price doesn't mean that it'll be paid double the price. That's an asking price. That's their value. They look at this is more valuable. Conspiring amongst themselves. In about 6 months after the 12th, so sometime in October, if those values still kind of hold, that's a little better. Next year, if they still exist, if you can't get it cheaper than that, then that kind of sets a precedence to a certain degree. Time is a component there, right? But there are a lot of cool releases. Actually, the one that, when I talked to the guy, because I had to pick up things for friends and family and all that shit, and the guy told me, he's like, I wanted replacements. Pretty much one of the few things I wanted, right? He's like, I have a hard time keeping the replacements on the shelf because replacements are now a focal point. Now, the replacements are a band that existed in the 80s and randomly do stuff. They've been reissuing a lot of stuff for a bit, for the last like 8 to 10 years. They're pre-Nirvana, and somebody that sounds like a crazy concept. Like, okay, why would you say that as like they're a major litmus? Nirvana was the last straw on the mountain of underground jumping into the mainstream in the 90s. This is why Nirvana is referenced so fucking much, right? Obviously, the material is good. I like the Nirvana stuff, but like you're like, there's so much that was going on. You're right, Operation Ivy, all that stuff. I get it, but they were the kind of like this gentle feather going on to the top of this big fucking mountain of underground stuff that we have to not finally get rid of those fucking hair bands, and it hit in the whole fucking slalom for next X amount of years. Loverboy and all those fucking bands from the 80s are fucking, we have no career. Fucking Nirvana. Placements kind of predate that. Placements actually, to my understanding, Let It Be, the older Let It Be, was the album that made people go, oh shit, this is a thing. Indie album sold a lot of money, made a lot of money back in the 80s. In spite of the repression. You're like, but I lived in New York City. Fuck you, okay? I'm glad you lived in New York City and you had record shops that catered to you. Certain cities in the world didn't have that. And the radio said, fuck you, we're not playing anything. We want you to listen to Def Leppard for eons and eons and eons and eons and eons. In spite of that, so you have a situation going on where record store day, and don't let your fucking grandma tell you, or your grandpa, or your Uncle George, say, they brought records back. Fuck you, okay? They've always existed. Stop acting like a tool. Just because Walmart and Target has them, because they have them, but they don't really embrace them. I think there's one Target that does. And even then, Target kind of shot themselves in the foot last year, and even more so this year. They're like, yeah, what a Gatling gun just suck on a fucking Uzi. Blah, 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 fucking done as a store, right? And they can't figure out why. They're like, why? Why is this not working? Because there's shit that people look for or are interested in that will peruse your aisles and do all that stuff. And the variety of interesting things you had, you just fucked up, okay? But you've been fucking up since 2006 in my book. So, it is what it is. Any which way, records have been around. And this is a thing I really like to see. There's a lot of people there, right? I was like 102 in the line. And there was more people behind me and more people as I left the store, right? So take into consideration, right? This makes me happy when I see this stuff because it's profound American subculture. See, if you weren't sure, like in the land of when they're dividing us and categorizing us based on skin, religion, fucking taste in music, or not taste in music, taste in fucking beers, like whatever fucking demographic they have us. Because mind you, they do have tons of information. They data mine, and they give us computers, which we really didn't fucking need, to get us comfortable with computers so they can create robots, right? Walk this shit through. If you're a kid of New England, you know this. Why? Because all the major schools were working on it back in the day, and we used to get these little pamphlets and these little books of technologies, these advancements. And that's why we knew a lot about flying cars, right? I go certain parts of the country, they're like, flying cars, golly, right? That's a thing, right? Not fucking, that's true. So what makes me happy is that subcultures transcend all demographics. This is why Cool Hunters existed at one point in time and still kind of do now, right? This is why data mining is done, because they're trying to perfect these markets to sell us our bullshit. I don't mind selling the bullshit, right? But at the same point in time, we constantly move. Subcultures are strange because it's quick judgment. They're finicky, they're hard to control, and with marketing, they want to control. But they transcend everything. Economic demographic, again, race, fucking gender. It's really interesting. So in a land where we think we have a lot of variety, we really don't. But yet the internet gives us that, and that's what keeps us on the drug. Think about that. Anyway, let's go to Block B. I know I'm already at 36 minutes. Are you managing this? Probably not. Okay, so Section B. I am a worker. At heart, I am. Around the age of 10, I became a paper boy. Some of you out there are like, what's that? I've seen those in old-timey movies. Did you work 2 o'clock in the morning? And did you wear a stained T-shirt and no pants? And you were delivering papers covered in plastic on my lawn that were weirdly moist on a night that was dry? No, I did this actually the way it was done back in the day. So yeah, during the day, sometimes ride a bike. Most time not. The great place I grew up had big fucking hills. So on icy days it was a walking stick, but you learn this stuff. So what I learned from that mechanic, right off the bat, now I didn't have it fully right away. I ended up getting it by the time I was like 11, 12 years old as a full-time gig. And I had it for a bit. I had it from like 10 to about 15, roughly. So what I learned from this at the time, and I got it, because all I really saw was like everything being starved out, money being not there. When I started doing it, I didn't realize how profitable it will be. Like I honestly didn't think like, cobbling and making it more efficient and edging down the time and networking. Like I didn't realize all the things that would benefit from that, honestly. Because at the time, you're not thinking about this as a kid, right? This is not your thought. You just think about, well, problem in front of me, how do I engage the problem? Right? And that's kind of most kids. Gen Xers really kind of had a fuck it attitude. And that's really fucking important to understand. Right? They're like, well, that's how it's going to be. So be it. You do cost ratio, quick cost ratio, which it did exist at that point in time, right? It's like probably one of those famous ones, my cousin telling me, he's like, hey, I remember myself, I wanted a certain haircut. I'm like, yeah. And I think to myself, I'm like, do I really want this way? And I really do. And how I based that line was on my mom beat my ass, right? I was young at the time, so taking consideration of that. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, but I really want it. So he said, fuck it, right? There's the factor, right? Now, there'll be a tale of two cost ratios I'll eventually get into at some point. This is scheduled already for season 3 because originally season 3 was supposed to be the whole second half of season 2. But I'm realizing that you're having a hard time with this. And honestly, I need to get better at this. I recognize that. I'm not a fucking idiot. So, despite the fact I play one on the internet. So, and on stream. So what I learned really quickly as a paperboy is low-level crisis management, cash in hand management, ritual and routine, right? Because back in the day, the newspaper was important, right? In certain parts of the country, it still is. For a certain demographic, it still is. That's why you have like shit like the Epoch Times, right? Again, they need to hit certain people. So the easier ways to do it, cheaper ways to do it, is basic newsprint and AM radio. Remember that. So the lesson I learned really quick was consistency. Consistency is the building block of anything. I'll repeat that. Consistency is the building block of fucking anything. You want to start a band? You need to ritualize being together and fucking around till you get something. It has to be once a week, at least twice a week. Not once every 3 weeks. That is fucking useless. The frequency of consistency shows how much effort you're putting into. Think about it this way. Your employers capitalize on your consistency. But ownership of that consistency helps you. Now, the title is I am a worker, meaning that you're defining yourself separate from an employer. You're saying, I am a worker. That is almost like a mantra to yourself. So with consistency, you're able to plan things. Like this is a standard. So within that date, the appointment, whatever you have going on, like when you ritualize a job, you go for 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours. Consistent schedule helps you, right? Because then you know that's stationary. You can move around, right? Add on to your plate. So what helps is it helps ritualize the process. Like back in the day when people looked through newspapers, like I said earlier, people would actually wait for you. They would clock times of the day, you being there. People watching television like cult leaders, because during the day, television's a whole different beast back in the day. I made the joke about John earlier, but that's the thing, right? You know, we want a critical society, put a bunch of judge shows on there, right? Create constant fear while playing really lame, mellow-ass music, right? You want to solicit your really bad pop, country, western stars during the day. That is your target demographic, right? And it's alien, because if you ever break off from that and pay attention during the day, you're like, what? This is a whole different fucking world. What's going on here, right? So anyway, so consistency is a lesson learned from the process of work. That's what I learned right away. Rapport and customer service, right? Customer service is just simply being cordial, right? A customer wants paper here now, or wants to change the pay routine, or wants it wrapped up, so on and so forth. They're talking to you. Your goal is to keep them as a customer, so you're like, okay, no problem. In the end, there's probably going to be tips, especially if you're consistent enough. See how the two correlate, right? Now, there's a difference, because while I did this route, I also built a rapport with certain clients. So what happened is I would get mowing jobs, shoveling jobs, where to get rid of the body, painting houses, right? Whatever fucking weird-ass job, you know, you're willing cost ratio yourself into, so be it. That helps with the other part, which is the last part, networking. All of this from one simple fucking job. This job has kind of been denied from generations on. So while I had this job, they heavily taxed it, and during the time of dire straits, where Reagan's economy collapsed and the coast suffered. You know where most of the population of the country is? Yeah. They suffered for a long fucking time economically. It was a fucking wash. right? Probably the hottest times. And they're like, crime rates went up. Yeah, because crime rates don't correlate with, I don't know, shitty fucking economies based on shoestrings because you don't grow. And actually, when it could have gotten better naturally, you give us NAFTA and GATT. So the manufacturing centers go away. Yeah, that happened. So if you're wondering why Generation X is so angry, despite the fact our parents had to be tied up with jobs or whatever fuckery, or we were kids of kids, right? You have to take in consideration the economy was fucking dog shit. Now, if you were in the middle of the country, it may have been heaven. But granted, they were censoring the shit out of you, allowing very little growth mentally, what was going on there. Only what they were giving you. They were spoon feeding most of you. Not the majority, not everybody, but the majority, high percentage of it, right? Not the minority. And that, if you see what I'm saying there, it makes sense. You're like, I can't see it. Why does that expression exist? Why is it so cliche? Because I'm where I'm from, right? That's the thing. So what happens is, low-level crisis management, cash-in-hand management, ritual routine, which you realize is lesson 1 in consistency, rapport and customer service, and through that, networking. All one job. Now, I didn't realize I was learning this. This is me as a grown adult telling you this is what I learned. But at the time, I didn't know that. So when younger kids ask me, like, what kind of job do you think I should go for, right? And I'm like, they're like, I want to go to McDonald's No, go to like a really shitty fucking restaurant, right? They're like, why? Because if you can get in there, you're going to be doing dog work. And then they stop. Like, why would I want to do that? So simply because what will happen is you develop thick skin. You'll develop a really strong, quick work habit and ability to tolerate bullshit while getting paid like kibble. All right? After about 6 months to a year, move on to a better situation. But you'll have that as a root work. People get into psychiatric stuff, behavior stuff. They're like, I just got out of college. Blah, 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 blah. Like, good. Why are you down in college? You went, hey, buddy. There's two types of school. If you use both of them, good. If you use one of them, it's limited. It's limited. But I will tell you, you need to go to the crisis centers. You need to go where the fucking action perpetually is. Why? So you can catch a knife in the chest? No, right? So you can learn the system of control, the ability to manage and create equilibrium within yourself to understand how to manage and deal with the crisis when it happens. Because if you've never dealt with crisis in your life and you went from like mom and dad and like happy little fucking world to right to college to study all these things because these are freakish things and like you want to, this is very kitschy and fucking never did it before in your life, you need to be baptized by fire. That's how it is. So when you hear all these exes out here, like, fucking hose water, whatever, fucking, it's baptism by fire. It's learning how to regulate your own shit. Paper route was definitely one of those things. Now, what happened is I was told to get a 40-hour work week job. I had a bunch of people talk me out of course shoot because by the time I perfected the paper route, I was getting paid like $23 an hour. And doing maybe 13 hours a week, which wasn't a bad gig. And that's averaging it. Some weeks are higher, some weeks are lower. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Especially when minimum wage was dog shit. Like, it still kind of is, but take in consideration that, right? So, it took a lot to introduce me to the idea of going to a 40-hour work week. And I was in high school. This was going to be a summer job. So what I did was on the blessing of my old man, right? So I'm like, okay, there's something I can't explain to you. You have to internalize while doing that. And at that point in time, I understood, because I fixed up these routes, change things, negotiate certain things, knew how to pretty much deal with any crisis presented in front of me. And you're freewheeling. Like you're walking around a neighborhood that is in many areas got sketchy as time went on. So taking consideration. So what I realized is it increases your self-control. Like when I give the advice, person going to the place to learn that internal clock, learn what to look for, learn the habits of ritual, right? You might get slammed around, you might get stabbed, but you'll know, right? You're like that. So you're trying to suggest stabbing is an experience. It's experience not to get stabbed again, right? Isn't that the whole idea? So increase self-control. Internal timing, which I mentioned already. How to conquer a 8-hour workday, which is extremely important. Understand, back in the day, and what they're trying to reestablish now, is jobs had you fearing. They were your God. That's how they wanted you to feel. And they want that again now. If you weren't sure what's exactly taking place right now, they want the whole world like that. Right? Fear. But like I said to you earlier, we've had employee worker-based economy since 2014, 2013, roughly. And again, you don't understand. Everything's really expensive. Pay attention, motherfucker. Not my problem. Okay? You were too busy doing whatever nonsense you were doing. The reason why they're asking more money from you is because they know you can pay it. Tighten the fuck up. It's true. Their demographic and their data collection suggests to them you will pay more money. There's good examples, right, of when this facade is pulled away. So if you're thinking I'm making this shit up, like, you're just talking completely out of your ass, fella. I'm like, okay, no problem. Then explain to me why all of a sudden prices drop when all of a sudden people lose hard interest in shit. Right? Like, streaming services could not make themselves cheap enough. Right? And cable became like a easy whore for you, right? Even though they were robbing your ass for many years. There's many consumers cultures like that. Like currently right now, like in my opinion, CDs are going to be on a rebound. So if you weren't sure, stack up the CDs there, fella. Females, males everywhere, get into your crazy, cliche, crazy, interesting niche markets of music and spoken word and even sounds to masturbate to, right? Get into that. Get them on your CDs. Collect those things and store them because they're going to be worth money. Why? Because it is a great format, despite whatever they tell you. Now, the earlier ones, you can sit and shoot at and do terrible things. You can belt sand and shit will still play. When they cheapen everything is when it all goes to fucking hell. Right? But it is a format that was liked. Take that in consideration. But when CDs, right now CDs are relatively cheap. I just bought Metallica's and Justice Fall for my kid. My kid's like looking at me, why are you buying me this? Because his version, his view of Metallica right now is negative, despite the fact they do have good material, right? Occasionally. And I say to him, I said, this is a really good album, and you're learning to play. Yeah, I got this thing for $5, brand new. It's $5. Back in 1993, this thing would be about $20 on CD. Back in 1996, $18, right? And it stood like that for quite some time. They were just fucking, no Vaseline, just handfuls of fucking sand just jamming in on our asses, right? Like, oh, we know you'll pay this. This is your dope, right? And then they wonder when Napster happened. And that fucked up the whole market. That's the thing. This actually fucking happened. You know? So, with that said, time management, internalizing the time management. And what I mean by this is when you have a tendency to do stuff and your internal clock matches the clock in the wall. So you know as you're doing the work, about 10 minutes has gone by. You're like, okay, no problem. And that helps you a lot, especially knowing your work. Again, this is titled, I am a worker. Because you're defining yourself as a worker. Don't let the job do it for you. The mistake people are going into jobs, JOBs, McJobs, whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? Is you're going in, allowing them to dictate your pace. Currently right now, they're sheepish because employee-worker based economy. Again, this happened. I'm not making it up. Okay? And once they want to make, in order for this to work properly, the way they want it to work, they need to make some hard fucking changes. Because this is 10 years in development. Workers, people showing up at these jobs, need to tighten the fuck up. And you're like, what are you talking about, preacher man? Preaching to me shit. Listen. Take into consideration this. Learn the trade, learn your job fucking well. You know what? Spend 3 months working diligently, getting really good at the job you do. Really fucking good. Then slack off after what you want, right? Because what happens is you'll internalize your time management. It helps you increase self-control, self-discipline, right? You may even learn a speciality. You may be the only person able to do said job relatively quick, or no said job. Current jobs I worked at right now, this tax, standard things I do as a routine, consistency, right? That fucks people up because they make fun of me. They're like, why are you doing this stuff? Why? That's extra, blah, 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 blah. Hey, it's just for my internal thing. Why? Because I need to know this is happening. I need to understand the space I'm working at. I mean, understand this, where this is at, where that's at, because I'm going to use them as a standard if shit falls apart this way. Well, the chances in that, I'm like, dude, you've been working here for 2 days. Shut the fuck up. Right? That's the thing. That's the problem. There's a disconnect. There's also a push because what they didn't expect to happen was that workers, they needed workers. This is why they're paying, certain markets paying more money. And that's happening. If you're living in a red state and you don't have that happening to you, or you're living in a state, an area that's not happening to you, you need to move to a different place because it's happening. But those rents are expensive. Those rents are expensive because they know you can pay the rent. That's the thing. You get this yet? Is this making sense yet? They know you can pay it. I can't wait till the landlords, I am your landlord. Those people will get fucked up. Because eventually, they're going to be priced out of their own place. Especially if they somehow trigger this fucked up collapse that creates a really weird fluctuation in the market. Is it possible? Yeah, these people aren't that brilliant. They're not. They're really not. I have PhD from John Boing Boing Boing's fucking Christian. Okay. And the fundamentals from back in the Adam Smith's. Yeah. Okay. What I really actually wish would happen is that American culture, the subcultures thing I talked about in briefly, opens the fuck up. That there's no more middleman, that people are just consuming interesting shit from interesting artists and foods and delicacies, all that. And yeah, people making food, people doing this stuff, yeah, you're an artist. If you put ideas together and they're coming out fucking delicious, or you're doing a great embroidery, a great craft, you're an artist. You're an artisan, whatever you want to be called. But that's kind of being controlled right now. It's been controlled for quite some time. 2000s, early 2K is a really interesting fucking time. Cannot express that to you anymore. So anyway, what the 40-hour work week does, I'll summarize this and move on to another point, is increase your self-control, internal timing, understanding general labor. right? How the week is broken down. Understand 160 hours a week. You're doing 40 of them, more likely probably 60. 60 is professional work week. So 3, the variety of work. Plus minus established skills. Increases self-awareness. Increases skills of assessment. Versus one trade. One trade you can master, right? You may be talented, extremely talented, like an exception to the rule. Or you might be a striving virtuoso. So in which way? The one that fucking set, up. Sidebar. When you're putting something together, I had the fucking luxury of trying to do sketch comedy way back in the day. The people that show up and shit on it are the jerks. That's actually a term from the thing. What they do is their goal is to stop consistency and movement. They do this a lot, right? And they mirror wanting to be there, but they don't really want to be there. But the goal is to kind of not sabotage, I guess. We have too much of this. This, at one point in time, was like, kitschy. But, I have that asshole that shows up here. But that asshole had to procreate like fucking Mogwai and then eat the food after midnight, which, at any point in time in the country, it's midnight, but I don't necessarily how exactly that works. So, that's the thing. So when you have those, they will offset the work. But you need to figure out how to transcend that. Right? The trade does help that because then you're responsible for your own shit and you know things a little better. And that can actually be broken off to gig work, which I thought that's the way the country was going to go, especially on the Obamacare thing. That was like taking the benefits packages away from employers and making them independent. But it is what it is. So in increasing skills of assessment, one of the things is Navy, I know Navy SEAL fucking statement, and they say so slow is smooth and smooth is fast. But for me, quick is a better choice of word. And it was funny because a friend and relative made me aware that you're already doing this. I says, yeah, I know, because the only way to learn shit and make things function well is to learn the process, how to put them together carefully, right? You may be able to grind, which is accelerating the process once you get it perfected, right? Self-discipline and self-control are the two things learned from all of that. That's why variety of work helps. So being a worker doesn't necessarily mean you're a person associated with a job necessarily, right? And a high-level worker is a person that can actually just crack open a business anywhere. But the idea of being a worker, going to any job and learning the job and doing all these skills as you go through your internal clipboard, you will get good at the job regardless. Time and memory. The goal and self-knowledge is an important element. Everything you acquire, you learn from, you adapt. What's even better, if you can evolve those ideas to abstractions and apply them to situations in your life to help fix the situation. If you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. Right? So, interesting thing. So, when they did movies back in the day, I want to say Stripe was the movie. I could be wrong. The inadvertent effect was that a bunch of soldiers jumped on. They're like, oh, we've seen Bill Murray in a military movie, so I'm going to jump on and sign on, right? And I want to say this was also the effect of Police Academy, right? And this was also an effect of, I'll give another example. Run DMC, My Adidas, the song, right? It comes out, it's just about stuff they buy. It's not designed the way modern music is designed. What is it? 15 years ago, they decided to pay liquor stores like you'll insert this ad into your product. So when you want all your MCs on the radio, like fucking naming brand names all the time, that's the reason why, is that fucking check. When Run DMC did it, that wasn't the case. It was a cause and effect. But it had an effect. Police Academy had an effect. Stripes had an effect, right? Actually, the effect of television, having television drawn around, is sometimes the friend effect. They think they have more friends than they actually have. That was tested. That's a sociological thing. So it's interesting, because indirectly it becomes social engineering. But social engineering for what? Currently, right now, the market has problems with, which was predicted during Obamacare when they wanted to expand, a bunch of people going to medical school, becoming doctors, and giving all this stuff back in the day. Now the market stopped. Now they need more nurses, they need more people. So we have a new show now, right? We have a new show, The Pit. Yay! Look, you want to get jobs in the maybe causation. I don't know. You tell me. That's speculative. Not really. It's something that's based on actual fact. Any which way, we are now going to close. Is that all right, Alex? Can we close? If you don't know, you don't know. Somebody is laughing a little harder, though. So, recap, worker. Identifying yourself as a worker, being able to do so effectively. Sometimes you got to roast yourself for the first 6 months of a job. Learn the job. Internalize the job, because that skill you're learning at that job, even though the boss sucks and the environment is shit, you might take that and go somewhere else and be more effective. That, and down the line, get paid more money. Interesting cause and effect. Generation X was on the decline of permanent, solid jobs. So the jobs right now that want to hire people are freaking out because they're realizing several generations did not prepare these people for this job, because the people that were there were selfish. They were like, we have this job forever, ever, even though I'm going to retire. Even though I'm going to fucking retire. And that shit's fucking funny. So what they did is they didn't set up these jobs. I guess they thought teleporting or going through the turtle's ass from a different dimension is how we get packages and shit other places. Or how we're going to have welders. Maybe it was a fucking baby dolphins that come out of the water. That they evolved enough to do the welding for you. I have no fucking clue. But they didn't prepare us for that. Right? And that's the thing. So those are still specialty jobs. Unless they somehow figure out how to... Actually, you know what? If all systems fail, those jobs are still going to be needed. Manual jobs are going to be needed. Even if you remove the fucking computer element from the job, there are ways to do the job without the computer. Want to know why? Hundreds of years beforehand, we were doing that job before the computer. Take in consideration that. So, last episode, season 2. I'm going to tell you about that. So, next episode is 13. And next episode will be divided into 2 parts. One is going to summarize everything I went through this whole season. You're like, oh God, we got to hear this shit again. I'm like, yep, yes you do. Except it might be better. Might be a little more like this. But the reason why I'm doing a course correction is I realize I have to do one. Now, I'm not really getting feedback. I got feedback from friends and family. It's the report bias is the thing I'm worried about. And you're like, well, you don't like comments. Because comments are shit. Anonymous, fucking weird. Don't give a fuck about you, right? If what I'm saying helps you, so be it. If what I'm saying is not, so be it. If what you think I'm saying is ridiculous, I don't give a fuck. Don't care. However, how I prepare this stuff is more interesting to me. how I present this material is more interesting to me because I want it to stick, right? I am going to eventually do live shit, but it's not this stuff. This is like the bath of bullshit, like a fistful of fuckery. That's what it is. It's exactly that. A bunch of random fucking shit that I throw out, pieces of knowledge. That's it. This is not that organized. 20% written. I have cue cards in front of me telling me what the hell to say next. I already know it in my head, what to say next, and I'm doing my best improv. Like, even when I covered the episodes of like reviewing films, the 3 lost films of the 21st century, I had to give you some summary because I need something to go by that. I can shortcut it by saying, this movie's about this. It's a crime film. Then I have very little less to say. Other point in time, I can dive deeper into the fucking film, break it all down. The next thing you know, an hour go by and I only covered one film. So I'm trying to get this going in a specific way. I'm trying to create a specific rhythm. I am getting advice, but it's just like so few and far between, right? So one thing to take into consideration, right? And I actually have this as a note. I'm actually surprised. So one of the things my old man reminded me of, and he said to me years ago, this is like fucking, I was already doing my rope for a couple of years. He's like, the problem with the city we live in is it forces workers to leave the city, to drive 30, 40, 50 minutes away from the city, to go get a job that pays reasonably well, to bring money back to the city, to stabilize the city. And that right there is a fucking problem. So I said, like a vampire. He's like, yeah. So vampire economy. If you currently living in a situation where you're going to drive X amount of miles to make enough money to have disposable income or to pay your shit, right? What happens? Right? What happens? Your house really isn't worth as much as you want it to be worth. Your car ends being the more valuable thing. It's fucking strange, but it's true. So when the extras come up, all this shit's shaking up. The factory or the place or the economy, which they built generations before them built themselves on, had left and abandoned the cities and didn't give a fuck. And you had that. So it forced them to go outward. Then when jobs seemed not to be loyal to them, right, they figured out a mechanism. We adapted. The thing that bothers me the most about Gen X is almost a kind of sellout mentality. Like, we're not doing our job. Right? Some of us are, some of us aren't. Like, they respond to things. They give you clear answers. And I like the answers. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the answers. But we are now becoming the elders. And we have more in common with millennials and Gen Z than I think millennials and Gen Z even realize. Right? We know where the bodies are. We know what... We watch parents and people fall the fuck apart. Right? We watch shit just fester. Right? And we watch these motherfuckers gloat all the time. So what we should be doing, more or less, is the shit I'm doing right now. I'm going to share my experiences. And what's weird is Daniel from Denver or William from Wisconsin, like that, they're going to have similar experiences. Right? I grew up in a city that just ate itself, and rich people are buying it now. That's the thing. There is a little sidebar. Detroit riots. Read about that. Learn about the idea of liquidizing a city that happened in 2009. The history behind that is really interesting. When people in power want to do stuff, they think in matter of decades. In this situation, they're also accelerating a process right now. So you're going to hear the craziest story. You have to see what sticks. This month was interesting because this month, that tariff thing is kind of funny. It's not funny, but it kind of is because you kind of seen that happening, especially if you have any working knowledge of things. So, which way? I will leave on this. Actually, a couple items. Recessions happen when there's a lack of work, which drives up consumer movement. Recession happens when there's a lack of work, which drives up consumer movement. If you remember that really when I was dog-ass tired, episode 2, right? Vote with your dollar, and how I kind of broke it down a little more. I know I should probably do research of that. Maybe I just pull on the episode, revamp it up, and throw it back up there again. Give it a secondary title. That's the thing. We're all in the system right now. So we're constantly disseminating capital. So when work dries up, we're still spending money, even if we don't do shit. And they're counting on us having that money or maintaining that debt structure because everything's kind of debt-based. So take that in consideration, right? That's a thing. Next episode also is going to have a brief 90s thing. I'm actually going to talk about Beck because trying to explain to my kids in hindsight, or anybody that's younger than me, the importance of Beck from 93 to 96 is quite difficult because they only see Beck now and what he's been since post-96. And that's frustrating. What I'm reading right now is To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace and Hard Rain Falling by Don Carpenter. This has been episode 12, and I can finish now, right? Right? This is closing. You understand that this is about to end, right? Okay.